Hello everyone, this is Shiva from funapps.online, and today we are going to create an Android jokes app from scratch in B4A. I have already downloaded the images for this project. I also have a database which has a list of jokes. Uh, the entire image along with the database and the source code is available for download, and the link is there in the description of the video. The Jokes app is very similar to the SQLite database tutorial that we saw in the previous two videos. We are picking up jokes from a database, and then based on the user selection of categories, it will display the joke. The user then can go to the next joke or the previous joke, which is very similar to the previous tutorials where we went to the next record and to the previous records. As you can see, we have the images and the database in the folder. Let me just open the database and show it to you. I have two tables. One is category, the other one is jokes. So the jokes basically has three fields and stores the jokes, and the category has four categories as such. So I'm going to copy all this, and I'm going to save it in the files folder under our project. Okay, so let's give it a name. Uh, let's call it funny jokes. I'm going to change the orientation to portrait, and I will then change the full screen as true and title as false. So the first thing that we need to do is create a splash screen. So I already have the splash screen image, and what I will do is change the activity background to this splash screen image. So I'll select the bitmap. Gravity should be filled so that it covers the entire activity screen. And let me save this. Then what we need to do is we need to create a timer. So I'm creating a timer, let's say splash timer. And we need to initialize this timer. Mm, 2500 seconds I think is good enough. And then enable the timer as true. So within this timer we will, once the timer achieves 2500, we will then start the activity. Let's call it home screen, and I will disable the timer after we call the home screen. If we don't disable it, then every 2500 milliseconds or 2.5 seconds the function will get executed. Okay, let's create a new module, home screen. and let's run and see whether we have the splash screen or not. As you can see, we have the splash screen. I'll change it to 3000. I think 3 seconds is good enough. Okay, let me open designer, and now we need to create the screen for the home screen. So let's give it form home name. Uh, to show the categories, I'm going to use a list view. So I'll add the list view. And let's see how the list view looks in the designer mode. Okay. So now let me generate members. Yep. Now let's add the libraries. Since we are going to use the database, we need to use the SQL library and the runtime permission. And now I'll copy the dbutil.bash file, which is there on my desktop, into our projects folder. Okay, let's import this file. Now what I am doing is I'm creating the SQL1 variable of the SQL type. This is very similar. In fact, this is exactly the same code that we used it in our previous video. So if you are unfamiliar with this, I would request you to view the previous videos on how to connect to an SQLite database. So basically this code does is it checks whether your database is present in the directory assets file folder, and if it's present it will copy it into the directory internal. So this code runs the first time and then it copies the file in the directory asset to the directory internal folder. And once it's present, it will initialize the database. So SQL1 stores our master.db database. Okay. Now we are creating a cursor which will store the output of our SQL statement. So I'm creating a function load table, and in that I will put in the select query for the categories. So what I want to do is I want to select all the records of the category table and then I want to put it into the cursor. Then I'm going to use this cursor and populate the list. So it will show the list of categories in the list view. So over here I'm saying from I equal to 0 till the row count minus 1. Because the row counts from 0, I'm going to add one single line to the list. So for every record in the table category, I'm going to add it into the list. And let's run and see how does it look. Okay, so the list is coming blank. Okay, I think the list labels are white. So what we need to do is now change the labels of the list to black. Now, unfortunately, there is no direct way of changing in the color in designer, so we'll have to write a small code to do that. What I need to do is basically create a label and then assign that label to the list and then change the text color of that particular label to black. And let's run this now. Okay, so we have the list there. Now, why do we have 4 check notice? Because I believe the counter is not progressing. So I need to change the row position to counter. Okay. I think I'll have to change the position above. So let's do that. Yes, so the list is working now and we have all the 4 categories in the list. Now what I'm doing is I'm creating a variable J category. Now this is in process global, which means that I can access it from each module. And what I'm going to do is whenever someone clicks on the category, the value of that category will get stored in this particular variable. So when I see the jokes, I can see the jokes only for this particular category. Okay, let's see whether this works. Chuck Norris, yes. So we know that the values in the list are working. And now let's create a new module, display jokes. Now this is the module that will display the joke. Now this module is very similar to our previous two videos on SQLite. Uh, what I'm going to have is basically two icons or two images that will show the previous and the next joke. One back image to go back to the previous screen, and then of course a label to show the joke. I would request you to see the previous two videos on SQLite to understand how this works in detail. So I'm selecting the images and I'll assign those images to the left and right and the back button or back image. Okay, let's generate members. So I'm selecting click for all the three images. Again, let's create load table function as the previous one. In this load table, we will store the output of the jokes table from the database based on the category that the user has selected. Okay, again I'm creating two variables, total records and counter. The total record will store the total number of records, and the counter will help us move to the previous or to the next record. The code is exactly the same as the previous two videos where we moved records from a table. So in the right click, I want to move the counter forward as such, so I'll use counter equal to counter plus 1. And what I'm doing is, if the counter is total records, that means it is on the last record, I'll display a message. If not, then I will progress the counter or increase the counter by 1 and then change the position of the record to that particular counter. Now I'm going to do a very similar one for the left click, where I'm going to check whether the counter is 0, that means it will be on the first record, and if not, then I will minus the counter by 1. And the display joke is a very simple function that will just display the column body of the current record to the label. Let's run the program. Oh, I didn't I don't think that we have selected the start activity there. Let's, yep, put the start activity in the category function. It's coming blank. Oh, that's because we have not displayed the record when we are loading the table. Okay, let's see. Okay, I know. So what we need to do is when you're displaying the record, it should be under the load table and the position of the record needs to be 0. So let's put the cursor position as counter, which is 0, and now let's run it. Yep, it is working fine. Let me change the layout so that the buttons are slightly below. Okay, looks good. Okay, so there is a problem where every time I run the program, it shows me the same joke first because it's pulling up the record as it is. What we need to do is basically randomize the output of the table. So I will add the statement order by random function in the select query. What it will do is it will randomize the output of the select statement. So every time I go to a particular category, I will see a different joke. Uh, it is good because every time the user opens the app, he will not see the same joke again and again. He'll just see a random set of jokes for the category that he has selected. So it's working fine. Now what we need to do is, we have these images and I want to, see the list of categories along with those images. So to do that, let me change those image names to 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I can populate the image uh, in the list as I'm doing with the category. And to do that, I'll use the property toLine and bitmap. Now in this, it is going to show two lines and then the bitmap image. We just want to show the category. So I'm just using a blank double quotes for the second line and show the list. Now, there is a better way, which is basically using custom list view, but we'll do that in the next tutorial. So let's run the program and see. Okay, I made a mistake. Our file name starts from 1, so we'll just say I plus 1 and then run it. Okay, I can see those images. Okay, there is the text again is a problem, so we'll have to again change the text color. So to do that, let's go to list, toLine layout, label, and just change the text color to black. Let's see. it is working absolutely fine, and I can see the jokes. Cool, so our app is ready to get published on the Google Play Store. Thank you for watching the video. If you like it, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more Android tutorials in B4A. Thank you again. This is Shiva from funapps.online.